Do you like Suzanne Vega?
I love Suzanne Vega.
Awesome.
Hey, everyone. That was way too hard. It came in hot. Hey, everybody. Welcome to What is Comics, where I, Jamie Jones, and my co-host, Matt Sardo, try to figure out just what is comics. Today, we have a great guest, Anya Driffill, a friend of mine. Spoiler alert, I know Anya. That's like, I feel like I know a lot of people who come onto the podcast and that we've talked to. We work in indie comics. It's a very small world, but I've known Anya for 4 years because we live in the same city. And that's probably like shades the conversation in a way.
Plus, she made me like bawl like 10 minutes before the interview because I read her dog tale, and my dog passed away recently, and I was just like a gooey marshmallow of emotion.
She's doing a thing. We called it Sad Girl Comics, and is that a new genre? Possibly. But you can find out about the whole genre of Sad Girl Comics at Indie Comics Creator Con.
Oh yeah, we have this show that's coming up on March 15th at Southern Connecticut State University in New Haven. We have 175 plus creators coming to town. Jim Rugg, Tom Scioli, Dean Haspel are the headliners. There's gift bags for the first 100 attendees. I have to figure out how to make those bags. I'm going to DIY them, and it's going to be very interesting.
Hey, listen, it's called Indie Comics Creator Con.
I'm putting the indie in con.
We're going real indie on this one. And since we are taking over the entire third floor of the building, we are doing a big scavenger hunt. So to make sure that you get to all the little nooks and crannies, and there will be a grand prize of some original art that we're going to complete at the drink and draw the night before. So make sure you do the scavenger hunt. It's going to be a good thing. You will be able to get your portfolio reviewed by editor-in-chief of Mad Cave, Mike Marks, and senior editor of IDW, Heather Antos. Tickets are only $8. Parking is free. Check out IndieComicsCreatorCon.com for more details.
And we have some amazing sponsors that are making this show happen. Comics Wellspring is taking care of all of our print materials. Cosmic Lion Productions has a whole island, and I think they have like 10 creators coming to town for the show. And Eli's been a huge supporter of what we've been trying to do. Dark Horse Comics has some swag for our bags. Monkeys Fighting Robots, New Haven's alternate universe. We have some new sponsors: TD Art, DiTullio Art Collective, Athenium Comic Art. This show we're on the cusp, and these sponsors are helping us make it happen.
Yes. And now that we are a part of the greater Comic Art Fans family, you should check out their YouTube channel as well, Comic Art Live. And now, should we do it? Should we start talking with Anya?
Yes.
Well, living in the sad is wild when it takes so long to make a comic.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Yeah, I'm working on this one about Indiana, and I was like, damn, this is sad. That one didn't actually happen. That one's all in my brain. But I was like, I don't know if I should spend so much time in this sad area in my brain because it might be affecting me.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I had to write a book that was all that was sad and in my feelings, and I hated every second of it, and it's not done.
Right.
Because it's just sad. And
Yeah.
I wanted to write about little boys punching bad guys, and that's what I do now.
Well, when I read the baboon books you gave me, Little Jamie, there's some scenes in there that make me sad.
Yeah, because you can live in it for like 2 seconds. It's a page. You can live in it for a page. It's when it's 80 pages that you're like, what am I doing?
I know. It's just little kids, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I was pretty decent at drawing, and I thought like I wanted to draw comic books and everything like that. But what I come to find out is that I was just depressed and I could focus. and happy Matt couldn't draw.
No.
I have the opposite problem.
Oh, when you're depressed, you can't draw.
Oh yeah, no, you can't draw when you're depressed. Get out of here. I'm in my bed.
What about Matt? If Matt's making art, we know there's a problem.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's Dylan. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, someone call him. I think when I'm sad, I'm like, I gotta get this out. I gotta draw something about it, make a comic about it or something, and then share it with people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The exercising of emotions.
Yeah. I always feel like a con is a success if someone has come up to me crying after reading one of my books.
That's miserable. Why do you want to bring on pain to people, Anya? What's going on here?
I'm just like, we're feeling the same thing.
Ugh.
No, I kid.
But I do think you're one of the first creators to come on that like actually like has had books that are more of the slice of life emotional tales. Everybody else has kind of been in the superhero supernatural genre so far, Jamie.
Yeah, superheroes not a genre. But yeah, supernatural, like adventure, action stuff. Yeah, that's been primarily what we're
superheroes
dealing
not
with.
a genre.
Superhero is a subclass where you like you can do different genre tales in a superhero comic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do sad things in a Superman comic.
Yeah.
Or
potatoes, potatoes.
yeah.
Or yeah,
Captain America.
Yeah, Captain America can be very sad.
Yeah. Fallen Soldier or something made me cry when they killed him. You know?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Whose house was that? Was it my house? Did somebody fall apart?
My dad has 4 100-pound dogs, so there might be some noises.
Great.
Yeah, and then my little guy is here too, the 11-pound dog.
What's the little guy's name?
Turnip.
Turnip. Oh, Turnip.
Yeah, he was at Heroes Con with me last year. Yeah, not during the show, but at all the events and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember him? You met him. We live in the same.
I know Turnip.
You know Turnip. Yeah. Yeah. Are we in the interview now? What are we doing?
We've been in the interview for 5 minutes and 41 seconds on it.
Wow. We've covered a lot.
Well,
yeah. So,
welcome. So let's talk about transitioning. Your newest title, your newest release that has come out was with Superhero Comics and Marty Keene, friend of the show, friend of life, friend of the world.
Hey, Marty.
And you have gone primarily from writing your own material to working with a writer. How was that experience? How do you kind of wrap your head around working with another person?
I've done it before when like pitch packets and stuff where people have hired me to do that. And that kind of experience wasn't as like free as working with Monty was, because Monty does like a Marvel style script, so there's just enough information for you to get what's on the like put stuff on the page, but a lot of it is still up to you. So that was awesome, and I might have like complained a little bit when he gave me notes, but I'm glad he did. And actually I've been working on my own stuff since then, and I'm like, I wish I had someone looking at this.
Yeah.
So I kind of loved it actually, and it's a little bit easier when you're not writing it and drawing it and doing everything.
It goes by a lot faster.
It goes by a lot faster.
A lot of your brain energy is switched. So working with another person that is specifically a cartoonist, you said you had worked with, were those people specifically writers hiring you? And then
yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the like panel descriptions in the script were really like tight and specific. And I don't know, for me that's kind of scary.
Yeah, I have found working with other people that are writers that unless they've been doing comics for a really long time, they don't understand visual language. Like they don't understand how to actually describe something visually for you to draw. And so you get like 5 actions in one panel. Can't do that. You'll get a bunch of little things that kind of ping your art brain. You're like, oh, how does that even work?
Right.
Like, oh, you want me to draw this ambiguous emotion? Like, oh, that's not how this, like, you can describe the emotion, but I have to do it in a drawing. And sometimes that's not how that works. So working with Madi, who visually draws things, was his descriptions of stuff much more like actionable?
Well, yeah, his descriptions of stuff were kind of brief, actually. It was just kind of like now they're in a high school and there's people walking around, and then now they're in a bad part of town and he's skateboarding. And so a lot of it was up to me, but I had like the direction, and that was really helpful. And like, so visually he did give like a lot of like pointers and was like, this is what's happening. But I think for me it was fun because I was able to do a lot of world building too. And yeah, I think with the other projects I've done where someone's like hired me, it's I don't know, I think there's like a pressure in creating a world that's so already specifically created in words, I guess. So yeah.
So how does your process work when somebody's like very specific? You give them some like thumbnails back and then ask for feedback, or how do you work your process?
No, I mean, I look at like a lot of references and stuff, and there is like a little bit of communication, but I think it's better to give someone like a finished page, and then because sometimes when there's like a bunch of notes, then the process will go on forever and ever. I don't know if you've experienced that, Jamie.
That real, I'm going to turn this in right on deadline.
Yeah.
So I can't get notes back. It's a real pro move there, Anya.
No, I love feedback.
Do you approach with your own stuff? And I guess you've said it several times, the world and the world building side of it. Is that what your initial like spark is? It's like, oh, I want to inhabit this world for a little bit, and how do I make the world feel big and large? And
no, I think about like usually a story will start in my head with like an interaction between characters or like a feeling or an emotion. And I actually am trying to work on this because I know my environments are kind of weaker. So world building is something to work on for me for sure. But I'll usually start with the people, and then I'm like, where do they fit in the world?
Yeah.
Instead of, I'm trying to like think of it all as one image now. I had a portfolio review recently that was helpful, where you got to think of all the aspects and the composition, like the speech bubbles and the environment and the people, and like they all have to fit together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I know like people, environment, coloring. Okay, now where do the words go?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm working, I always put everything on the page all at once.
Yeah.
I'm able to, I can't see it otherwise. It doesn't mean anything to me when it's just words on a page, and it doesn't mean anything to me when it's drawings, and everything is just kind of like thrown around. But yeah, composition. Your composition in Sneak Creep was, I say this having known you, I guess now for like the last 4 years. It's so much leaps and bounds better than what it was 4 years ago, which is good. Like that's the progression of artists. But it's so definitively a step in the right direction, which is great to see.
I was really excited and kind of shocked myself, actually, because stuff that I made a couple months ago too, I think is not as good as what I did in Creep Sneak Kill. But I think it's just because I was doing it for a creator that I like and admire, and I was like, I got to get this done.
Yeah.
Like, I got to be dependable. So I was drawing like a lot. So I feel like that was really helpful.
Yeah. Do you are you a draw every day, no matter what person, or are you just like I take a break every now and then, or what is your schedule like when you're doing that kind of thing versus like writing these like more sad girl feel comics?
Oh my god!
Right, like those are two so different things to me.
Yeah.
Like, how do you create sad girl comics, and then how do you create superhero comics in the same year without one kind of folding in onto each other?
Well, Creep Sneak Kill was kind of the only thing I worked on for the last 3 months of last year, from like October to December. And then now with the new Indiana thing I'm working on, I got a little notebook that was given to me by my place of work, which is a coffee place, and it's for coffee, but I took it. And so I'm using it for my comic book scripting. And if I might have like downtime at work, I'll be like, beep, 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 and then this scene happened, and then this happened. And then on my breaks, I'll like pencil or I'll color or something, which is, I don't know, kind of new for me, actually. I'm just kind of obsessed with it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it hasn't always been this way. Like it changes sometimes, but I do try and draw every day. And like, if I don't draw every day, I'm like, what a waste.
What do you like to draw?
I like to draw people. Yeah. I'm trying to move away from, like, I'll do like pinups and stuff in my sketchbook, but I'm trying to focus just more on sequential stuff in my like everyday drawing. Like it used to be, I was like, I'll do this character sketch after work and that'll be my drawing for the day. But right now I'm kind of feeling like if I don't do something sequential during the day, then it's like kind of the same feeling, like I wasn't very productive today, you know?
Yeah.
And I really liked I like the panels and the pages where you kind of hand drew your panels and they weren't perfect.
Oh, thanks.
And my question, because like my brain isn't wired that, when did you become comfortable with it not being perfect?
I don't know. I think I just didn't want to use a ruler. I was like, this will be easier. Yeah, and I think now I'm more like, I can make it better. Like I can make it better. But with some of my stuff, I was just like, this is great. This is good. This is all I need, you know?
Because I was somehow like dumbfounded because like I was like, oh no, this is an uneven panel, and I like
Mhm.
I stepped back and I was like, oh, this all works. This all somehow fits together and like it just tells the story and it works and it just
Thank you.
I
I
enjoyed
think,
it. And I'm going to defend you. I like sad girl comics. That's my genre. That's my niche genre. That's why I'm going to put my stake down.
thank you, Matt.
I read those more.
I'm not saying I don't like sad girl comics. I'm just saying that is what it is.
Yeah, Jamie arranged a comic book reading like the beginning of last year, and he wouldn't let me go last because it would have made everyone really sad. It's like, you can't end the night.
Yeah. Oh, it's too. I read it. And I was like, oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you grew up in Indiana. You went to high school in Maine, and now you live in Savannah.
Mhm.
Where do you consider yourself from?
Indiana, probably. I mean, I've lived in Maine longer than Indiana, but I just consider myself a Hoosier.
A Hoosier.
I'm pretty
Midwestern.
nostalgic about that place.
And do you, when you're writing your sad girl comics, do you come from a Midwestern persona when you're making that happen?
Maybe. I mean, it's all me, so I guess so.
Well, I talked to Madi because his books are Steel Streets in New York City, and
Mhm.
um, you know, I really do like get this geeky smile on my face when like I can feel the vibe of the city.
Mhm.
But also like having lived in the Midwest for 10 years and wandering through all the small towns and neighborhoods in Indiana and doing all that fun stuff, like the Midwest is awesome. Like
Yeah.
it's like some of the nicest people in the world. And like
Mhm.
I I even though I grew up in New York and lived on the West Coast and lived in Chicago and all over the place, like I had the most fun and I have like the best friends from the Midwest. So like
Mhm.
I love that Midwest sensibility kind of thing
Mhm.
that goes on there. So I don't really know what to have that question there, but like I can see, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, John Hughes, like all his movies
Mhm.
are from the Midwest and they come from that Midwest like
Yeah.
point of view. And so I was just wondering like what point of view like your comic books are
Um, I think for me, the Midwest is like so special to me because, well, I moved out of there before like puberty hit. So I moved out of there before I've ever really felt any sadness, you know? So it's like, this is was perfect little place in my mind, you know? And the the comic book King of Indiana, or I'm thinking I'm going to change the title, but I'm trying to capture like this character's juxtaposition of feeling like this place was super safe and then coming back and feeling like they don't know it and they don't belong there. And sometimes that is how I feel like going home, because it's like all the businesses are closed down and no one lives there, and it's just like, this sucks.
No, when I lived in California and my family was in New York, I
Mhm.
only came home at Christmas time.
Yeah.
And so for 7 years, I only came home for 1 week. And so for me, things were very drastically changed by the end of that 7 years because I
Yeah.
only spent 7 weeks in that 7 years. And then by the end of that, like, you know, my brothers and sisters are growing up and the town
Mhm.
has completely changed and all this other stuff. And that, like, you know, they talk about that you can't go home, you
Mhm.
know, kind of thing. And that just like really hit me there. And
Yeah.
you know, when I was in my, yeah, I was in like, uh, you know, early like 19, 20, 22. You're still kind of, you know, an emotional marshmallow kind of thing, just all crazy and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Just trying to figure things out, you
Yeah.
know? Just trying to figure things out.
I've never heard emotional marshmallow before. I like that.
So you sit
Yeah.
down. You sit down to write something. You're writing in your notebook. You're
Yeah.
doing it kind of like it's got to be when you're doing something like that while doing other work, right? It's
Mhm.
got to be all encompassing. You're just living in it constantly and waiting for something to catch the feeling and move on.
Mhm.
Uh how do you decompress after that? How's the how does like living in sad world or an emotional state, maybe it's, I don't know, maybe I'm a robot and I try to like block things out and push stuff away and not feel things, but uh but how do you deal with that? As because I know when I do feel bad, it
Mhm.
is the only thing that's happening, right? Like
Right.
it's there might be a creative thought, but it's not the creative thought that's going to keep me sustaining to make creation.
You're just sad.
Yeah, I'm just in it, and it's just you gotta wait. I gotta wait for it to pass through me. Uh,
That might be the way to do it, where you get in it and then you go through it instead of just like kind of ignoring it. Because you always seem okay.
always seem okay.
He's always okay, guys.
That's the trick. Always keep them guessing.
Sometimes the bow tie is on a little tighter.
A little too
Right.
tight.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that existing in that space and writing stories that are sad really affects me much, or like adjusts the baseline that I exist at, which isn't saying that I'm like super depressed or something, but it's just stuff that I think about already. And then I think writing it down and like turning it into something creative and building off of it is nice, because
Yeah.
it's like making something out of this and other people can see it and kind of react to it as well, I guess. I don't know though.
There's a common thread in like a lot of your stuff
Mm-hmm.
that is all loss of friend, loss of young friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very seldom, unless it's your dog, have you lost something to old age, right? Like that's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
and are you aware of your obsession with death of young friend? Like I ask this because I do a lot of thinking of like what am I writing about? What do I care about, and why am I trying to do that?
I'm not aware. I wasn't aware.
Well, great. Well, hey, guess what? That's what you're doing. You're writing a bunch of stuff.
I'm trying to understand my own mortality, Jamie.
That's fine. That's good. That's what we're all trying to do.
Yeah, with the comics, I am not aware. I was not aware that I'm obsessed with death, but a lot of my longer story comics are about death. It is something that very much scares me. So I think it's probably like a release again, like those other feelings and stuff. Yeah.
It's okay. Like, Jamie's a horrible therapist, by the way. Don't ever go to him.
Oh God, this is going on.
I am just bringing up things that I have noticed in works of art.
Because one of the subjects that I really like, when like Jamie asked this question, like, what stories do you like? I like when people try to explain like heaven and hell, or God and the devil, or aliens, things that our brain has not. Like we never. And so I like to see how people interpret that as well. So you're just trying to figure out your own thing, and it's fun.
I think something that I think about a lot is like, not like the point of my life, but like what I'm doing and like if it matters. And I think that is a big influence on what I'm writing about or making. I'm just like, I hope this is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you what are you reading, or what are you intaking that is it similar, or is it like the complete opposite, right? It's like,
well,
can't wait to watch Fast and Furious 29 because then that's just about family and fast cars, and then I can go write my sad things, because I do the opposite. This is I write action adventure stuff and like stuff, but my intake is all like people being sad. And, like,
yeah, mainly what I'm reading recently is just a lot of comics history books, and X-Men, but only from the 70s to maybe 92. And I started watching Buffy. She's kind of sad sometimes. Yeah. And then in the background when I'm drawing, I'll usually be listening to sad music, or I'll have Unsolved Mysteries playing with Robert Stack.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, because one of your Instagram photos had like Tori Amos music.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, where are you on the Tori Amos spectrum?
My parents really liked a lot of like alternative lady musicians from the 90s, so I grew up on like I almost said Indiana Jones, Indigo Girls, and Ani DeFranco, and Tori Amos, and like Liv Fair and stuff. So did she do something bad?
No, I don't think Tori Amos has done anything. I just so how old are your parents?
My dad's 51 and my mom's 46.
Okay. So I'm 40. I'm going to be 49. So, I'm your parents' age.
Right.
And so I had a spectrum of girlfriends that listened to Tori Amos. There were some that were more into it and some that
Mhm.
were like less into it. And it was just an interesting time of Tori Amos in the
Yeah.
90s in the dating scene. So that's why I'm just wondering how Tori Amos resonates today with today's youth.
I haven't met anybody who listens to Tori Amos. Do you like Suzanne Vega?
I love Suzanne Vega.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't think that song on Instagram helped me with engagement at all. So
Yeah, no, it was very random.
yeah.
But okay, I had a point. I was going to a place and then I just lost it. So Jamie,
Okay.
begging you in.
Listen, all my questions are all like, what are you doing? How are you trying to make stuff? How are you making things? Like, what are you obsessed with? What's the thing that you're constantly driven to write about? Other than death.
Well, with this Indiana thing, I'm trying my hand at a romance.
Hey,
I don't know yet if it's gonna work out or not.
that's how that works.
Yeah, in real life. Yeah, it's another layer of like the displacement of coming home because the main character in the book is like reconnecting with her ex, who's the brother of the main character that died, and they have to work that out, at the funeral.
Yeah.
Funerals are great for make out sessions and all that.
I was wondering if that was in bad taste, but thank you. I am starting to do a little zine. I think I'm gonna call it like the blood of my enemies, and it's just like female characters I like that fight people and get covered in blood. So
I can see Buffy has already like got her claws in you.
Yeah, Buffy. Yeah. Buffy's in there. Yeah, Carrie, Kill Bill lady, the bride, some other ladies, and I want to do like another action thing. So I think I'm gonna do like I started this today, like a 20-page silent comic of like an archaeologist in space just fighting aliens and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's not exactly about death.
That's not yet. At the end of Sneak Creep Kill, there is a to be continued issue 2. Is that coming? Is that started?
That is not started. And when I was like, oh, I can't wait to the next one, and he was really coy about it.
I like your Marty impersonation though. That was like a lean in. Like I was like, I've seen that.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't talked about it, but I don't know. It seems like it's getting a pretty good reception, so I'd love to do another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, it leaves on such a note where you're like, okay, we're about to go. We're doing a thing now.
The story's starting. Yeah.
Is that the longest thing you've ever done? You live in zine culture. In my mind, your zine culture, mini comics, everything's smaller form stuff.
Yeah.
Which is great. Anybody listening, please start making comic books and make 8 pages. Do not make 300. It's hard to do. Start small. But that's where like seeing your progression and your growth outside of college, where you're like, now I'm producing a bunch of stuff, and it was zines. And so how is the transition from doing the 8-pager, doing the mini comics, doing these kind of like more vignette slice of life stuff, going into doing something? Because it's like 32 pages, right? 36 something.
I mean, I think the whole issue is like 32 pages. I think it's maybe 28 pages of story.
Okay.
Because Marty's got to put his cool ads and copy in there.
There are the ads in there, yeah.
There are the ads, yeah. And his beautiful pinup.
Yes, yes.
I really liked it, and I don't know. I know that I think you were a really big part of me starting to produce a lot of stuff, because I met Jamie right before I graduated college, and then I graduated and I was like, oh God. And you were like, just make like a small thing, make like an 8-page thing that you hand to people. Yeah, so I started doing that. But I don't know, it feels really good to have made something bigger. It's like a linear story.
Is there a difference in your approach going from the smaller thing to a bigger thing? I know like the approach of working with a writer is different than working on something yourself, but do you find working on one project that is, 8 pages versus 28 pages, it like gets exponential at a certain point, right? Like 8 pages is doable, and then you add 2 pages and it's like, oh, that's a whole nother week of work. Like, you don't think of it that way. But 8 pages, you're like, I could do 8 pages in a week. That's fine. I can like buckle down and do it. Add 2 pages. Now it's okay. It's going to take me another week to do 2 more pages. Because you're like, well, if I'm going to be working so hard, if I'm going to do 10 pages, I should take weekends off so I'm not dying. So then it's like, okay, now it's 2 weeks to do 10 pages. And then like you get to 28 and it's like everything just kind of expands and explodes. What was your process like going into doing something bigger?
I started with the cover, and they didn't have feet at first. And Maddie was like, where are the feet?
You were like, listen, I like Rob Liefeld too much.
I was like, they look great without feet.
You're a little fact about Anya, a big Mark Silvestri fan. A big Mark Silvestri mark. Draw the spade foot. You should have just drawn spade feet.
When I was first getting to know Jamie, he was like, who's your like favorite artist, your biggest influence? And I was like, Mark Silvestri. And he's like, I don't see that at all.
No, it's not there.
I was like, I love him. Yeah, I don't know. Well, what was your question?
What was your process in starting a longer form project? Or did you just go, all right, I guess I'm starting?
Yeah.
I guess it's just like one foot in front of the other kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Did Madi give you like a hard deadline for it to start?
No, he was very, very chill about that. And I never believed him when he was like, get it done whenever. And I was like,
it'll come out. Yeah.
He's going to hate me if I don't get it done at this point, like this specific deadline in my brain. And then he'd be like, what? No, but he was like, I think I'm going to write this script. And I was like, oh, cool, funny. And then he sent me a mock-up cover, and I was like, yeah, that'd be really cool. And then he was like, oh, the script is done. And I was like, what?
Right.
Yeah, like I wasn't actually, because people say stuff like that all the time. And they're like, yeah, let's work together. Like, and then it was there, and then I was like, okay, I have to do it.
It took me 10 years to find a person who would be like, oh, we're just going to like make a thing. Great, cool. Mm-hmm. I guess not, because we definitely did that. But we're like, all right, cool. But like, follow through is such a weird, hard thing to deal with in comics, because you're like, everyone talks. It's such a big, because you're talking about stories and you're talking about making stuff, but then the actual like sitting down to do it takes so much longer than, sitting around. I guess this is silly because we've been talking about your newest book on the podcast. But do you find that not talking about stuff kills your drive to make it, or is it the opposite for you?
Sometimes it does. Like sometimes I'll talk about something and I'm like, no, never mind. My dad is like that. He writes short stories and stuff, and he will not tell anybody anything until it's done, because if he says anything about it, he can't write it.
Yeah.
Does that happen to you?
No, I have the exact opposite problem. I have little boy syndrome where I have to show somebody what I do exactly when it's done. And so like I will just take pictures and I will send it to people.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, hey, and they're like, oh, that looks great. And that little bit of dopamine keeps me going. I'm the worst.
I'll find myself doing that too. Like I have a little group chat with some girls and I'm like, look at this thing I did.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
Yeah.
wow. And then
Group chats are smart. I individually text like 5 to 6 people.
you need to like make a group chat for the Jamie fan club.
No, I don't want them. I don't want any. Listen, part of the happiness and part of the goodness is 6 dings. 6 separate dings from 6 separate things. This is also why I'm so bad at texting because things get buried. It's not one group text.
Yeah, unless you're texting Jamie like, oh, I love that. He's like, ah.
I don't see it. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why Jamie and I became friends, because we would go to the comic book shops on New Comic Book Day, and I barely knew him, and he was like, hey, do you want to see this page I just did? And I was like, holy shit, I'm behind the scenes on this comic book. This is amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then kind of just like grew from there and everything like that. But like,
Yeah.
I love that stuff. I love the behind the scenes on that kind of thing. So if you want me to give you the Jamie Attaboys, feel free to me with panel layouts and stuff too. I'll be like, oh, this is awesome. But when did you have the conversation with yourself that like you wanted to make comic books and you wanted to like go in that direction?
When I was a little baby.
Oh, tell me more. Tell me more. This is my favorite time.
With little baby time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the first kind of like comic oriented conversation I remember having is with my grandpa, and the Ang Lee Hulk movie was about to come out, and he was like, I can't wait to see that. And little Anya was like, I can wait. But then I fucking love that movie. My dad read comics growing up, and then after Image was formed, and then everybody kind of like blew up and shit hit the fan, he stopped following comics until I was probably in 3rd grade, and I was like, tell me about this superhero, tell me about that superhero. And then we would drive to Indianapolis and we would get comics. And that was just kind of like the thing we did. And I was like, I want to do this.
What was the store? Do you know the name of the store you used to go to in Indy?
No, I don't. I wish I did. I think it had like a really generic name though, like
Comix.
Yeah, in the Indianapolis comic book store. Yeah, it was funny because Indianapolis was like an hour away from us, so it was like we got to go pick up our pull folder.
Yeah.
And so how old were you when you were going to pick up your dad's pull? Like,
I was probably in 3rd grade.
Was that like 8?
Yeah. No, I don't know, actually.
9, 10. I don't know. Yeah, around there.
Yeah, I said yeah, like so. Yeah, absolutely.
I have that question, and my kid is in 3rd grade right now. I'm like, why did I even ask that question? I know how old these people
are. Yeah.
So, what was it like going to the comic book shop? Did you kind of like? So, what year was that? When you were like 8 or 9? What year is that? I'm trying to think.
Like 2007, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was like a real like indie comics were starting to kind of like Image was going through a thing, and Boom and IDW were growing out of that, and then like Mark Millar and Bendis were doing their own indie stuff as well. So which you probably didn't even touch at all. But like, what was?
I followed the Bendis Avengers stuff.
Okay, yeah, because like the new Avengers started with that and everything.
Yeah, that was my jam. Avengers Breakout.
Yeah,
interesting.
Avengers Disassembled. Yeah.
So how were you when they killed Captain America?
Oh, I cried. They're all playing poker, and Wolverine sits in the chair meant for Cap, and then Spider-Man beats him up. He was sad. It made me sad. But I grew up on superhero comics, and the Hulk and the Avengers were like my thing. And I don't know when I transitioned to like X-Men being like the be all end all, and then Wolverine is like my favorite. And then it wasn't until I got to college that I learned about like indie comics, because nobody at college fucked with superheroes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a crazy thing about SCAD, and like Tilly Walden is their king. That is it's a great, like, it's great, but it's also wild that none of these people coming into comics now care about superheroes at all.
Yeah.
It's a wild wave that we're going through.
It was shocking for 19-year-old Anya.
Yeah.
Like nobody were familiar with the artists from Marvel or DC or Image, and I didn't know what they were talking about. It was all like indie comics and anime.
Were they bougie about it?
Kind of.
Have you met art students ever? Are they bougie about everything?
Well, this is when I had a comic book shop. It wasn't about like that. It was like, this is a comic book store, and like whatever comic book you're looking for is in this store. So like, let's help you find that. And that's the same thing with the show IC3. Like, there's a spectrum of creators coming to the show, and like, you'll be able to find something that you like. And so whether you like superheroes or sad girl comic books, like, you know, the whole new genre that we just
it's a genre now.
You know, there's going to be something for you. So I was never like, oh, you read that. Like, I've never understood like making somebody feel bad for liking something.
I was always of that mindset too, because a lot of the kids I went to school with had like vitriol for superhero stuff, and would like shit talk and be like, oh, that's so stupid. And it's like, well, I would never say what you're reading is stupid. Not that it was ever directed at me, but because I didn't talk about it that much. So my like love for superhero and Star Wars and whatever. But
are those all your dads or your omnibus in the back?
These are my dad's. He's got like 57 omnibuses. Yeah, he was gonna try and sell them to Lee in Neighborhood Comics. He's got too many. But retailers don't actually buy them for that much, so I guess he's stuck with them.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's your do you have a favorite like dad comic book memory?
I don't know. We got so into it that like on long road trips we would do 20 questions, but it would only be superheroes. So that was always fun. Yeah. And then my brother's gotten into it too. We still do it.
Nice.
Yeah. But I think my senior year of college, when I met Jack Strickland, who was another kid that went to the Drink and Draw in Savannah, was when I was like, tell me more about these indie comics. He kind of like bridged the gap for me a little bit because he knew superheroes and he knew indie. Yeah. And then I started hanging out with Jamie, and then every time I would leave his house, he would give me like 5 books. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
Yeah.
Lots of comics. Lots of comics go in and out of my doors.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I think I started making indie comics, and I was like, it's easier. It's kind of easier to draw like emotional comics than it is to draw people fighting all the time.
No, it is very interesting that like you kind of like grew up on superheroes and now you're kind of doing like slice of life storytelling.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I think it's kind of weird.
Well, I mean, this is gonna sound bad, but like superhero stuff is definitively like it was made for children, and it is children's work. And now you're growing up and you're doing a thing, and you're going into adult like you're experiencing and writing about adult themes, and
Mhm.
it's become less about the child at play and
Yeah.
more about like trying to figure out who you are as a person as you enter into this new thing. But you're still like dipping, doesn't stop you from dipping your toe into doing something that's exciting and superheroes and people punching each other, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just did that with Sneak Creep, and you said you wanted to do a archaeologist in space story. Like that's like it all kind of things converge and flow back into itself.
Yeah. And like you said, like the superheroes are kind of just a vehicle for a story.
For any type of story, yeah. So
Mhm.
if you don't have to have somebody punching somebody with super strength, does it
Mhm.
like does that diminish the story? Does it make it better? I don't think it does either, but it's just
Mhm.
what what are your interests right now? I guess that's what are your interests right now, Anya?
Death.
Yeah.
Was that a serious question?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, so let's let's have this conversation about death. Like
Oh.
why are you afraid of death?
Oh, I don't know. I was hanging out with a friend of mine and I was like, yeah, sometimes I think about death and I can't breathe for a couple seconds. And then she was like, that's weird. That never happens to me. I don't know. It's just something that it's the one thing that nobody has any experience on. It's like a complete unknown. But I think I'm honestly more interested in telling stories about the way that people react to it. Because my grandpa died recently, and it was really strange the amount of laughter going on in the hospital room with him, even though he wasn't there. And that was hard for me. That was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I know I was younger, but I was at my grandfather's funeral, and
Mhm.
our section of the church was just joking around, having a good time, and
Yeah,
then there was a whole nother section of the church like just bawling.
right.
Like we all grieve differently, and there is
Mhm.
no like right or wrong way to grieve. But
Yeah,
it is interesting to be a fly in the wall and to look at a church and see how everybody's kind of handling it on their own.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it's all kind of beautiful. Like this is how you are remembering this person that was so important to you. Um, yeah, I just think that's really powerful and an interesting thing to think about and write about. But I'm worried that people are going to watch this and be like, oh, she's a freak. All she thinks about is death.
We'll cut it so it's only about death.
Okay.
This is all going to be in black and white too.
Right. Yeah. Violin.
No, because part of me wants to ask the question, like, because you were what 99, born in 99,
98.
98, like,
Mhm.
so-called they so-called say like, your generation hasn't seen any good times. It's just been like 9/11, depression,
Yeah.
Trump, COVID, Trump. Like it's just been pure chaos. Where like I at least had like the 80s and 90s to goof off and have
Right.
fun. I mean, like it's so. I mean, like how do you feel in general like about the world?
That's a scary, scary place, Matt.
Yeah, it is.
um, I try not to follow the news that much. Like that might sound bad, but every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, the world is ending. So, and that makes me feel worse than, stewing in my sad girl comic book soup all day. That's something at least I know I have like control over. And then reading the news, it's like, don't know what's gonna happen.
No, because
Yeah.
during the 80s, there was a lot of shock art in response to like Reagan and everything like that. And I thought
Mhm.
there was gonna be some shock art in response to the Trump's first round. And
Mhm.
I'm hoping that like it kind of happens now. I mean, because I really like when like art reflects what's going on in the world.
Mhm.
even in the superhero comic books, Obama was on the cover of Spider-Man, and
Yeah.
they had the whole Civil War thing because of what Bush was doing in office and stuff. So I mean, like,
Mhm.
I really do like how comic books can kind of console you in bad times, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of all started as a form of escapism. And they were, especially during World War II, that was a big thing. And then the like rise of indie comics in the 60s, that's like people upset with what's happening in the world, but like mainstream comics isn't brave enough to publish it. So people are like, let's do it with our photocopiers and our printers. It's all great and important.
So where do you see yourself in like 10 years as a comic book hero?
Oh, jeez.
10 years is a long time.
Hey, it's not.
Like, 10 years is a long time.
I'm sure I have 10 years left. Come on, let's go.
I'm saying 10 years is too long. 10 years is too long to see like where you think you're going to be or what you plan on being.
Yeah, I think I'll probably be a millionaire.
Great.
In 10 years.
Amazing.
I'm not sure if it's comics that does it, but that's what's going to happen in 10 years. Yeah. That's like those college essays, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years, more obtainable. 5 years.
Yeah.
But the with working in comics and the state of the way this industry works, just in general, not in any new state, just the way that it is, it changes year to year.
Yeah.
Like you will have a different
job. I don't know this, Jamie. I've only been in the industry for 30 plus years.
I know, but that's what listen, we're having a conversation for people outside of this world. But the industry and like has changed year to year from a perspective of like 10 years ago. It was an extremely viable option for me to go in and try to get a job as a penciler. And now nobody's just penciling their own work. Like you see some of the older guys doing it that way, but that's not really the way the job works anymore. Because digital art has kind of taken over the idea of having a rough drawing and then an inked drawing. You can just ink directly over your roughs, and that's the same time sink as penciling, right? So now you have guys who are doing traditional art who are penciling and inking their own work, and then you get burned a couple of times coloring by a colorist, then you start learning how to color. You get burned by a letterer, you start learning how to letter, you start making your own stuff. It's every year it like something happens where you have to figure out a different way of producing your own stuff. I mean, Anya starts as a mini comics, zines. This is how I'm getting my foot in the door. This is what I'm presenting to people, to now working on longer form work. That's a transition that might be similar to a lot of people, but it is the transition of a yearly transition of going to do something else.
Jamie,
now I say something.
we'll ask you this question when it's your interview, Jamie. When you're a guest on the show, we'll ask you what do you want to do in 10 years.
I'm just saying.
Anya, feel whatever you want. You want to do, what are you doing next year? What are you doing 5 years from now? Like, what are you having for lunch tomorrow? Can we start there and build from that?
Yeah. I have no idea.
But that's what I'm saying, Matt. Maybe the chicken's bad tomorrow and she can't have the chicken. She's got to go with the steak, and that changes the plans for what's for dinner.
Chicken is dangerous right now.
That's what I'm saying. The chicken's not good. This is what we're dealing with.
Yeah. But I wanted to touch on what you were saying about you have to pencil and ink, and then you have to color, and you have to learn how to do this, and you have to like learn how to letter, and it's like all of these indie cartoonists doing everything. And I was thinking about like what I think indie comics is, and I was like, it's a bunch of really talented, like impatient artists, you know? They're like, I
like that.
Yeah, I don't have time for someone else to do it. I'm gonna learn how to do it myself. And then I want it out there now, so I'm gonna print it myself.
Yeah. That's definitely that is the vibe. I could sit around and wait for 2 months for somebody to do this other thing, or I could just do it myself. Yeah.
Like, oh, I guess I have to learn how to do this or format a book, and yeah. So I don't know. I think that's really cool. Just the dedication that a lot of people have. It's cool to see.
Do you have other stories in your head that need to, like, there's some creators that like create because they just have stories bursting out of them. Where are you on that spectrum?
Yeah, it's happening all the time. Yeah, I have like my notes app, and having that little notebook has been really helpful. And then I'll just write like shit in my sketchbook, and I'll come back to it, and I'm like, what is that? Like I'll be like, that's a really cool title. I'm gonna write that down, and then I'll look back at it, and it's like, what is this about? You know? But yeah, I think I'm always like, things are like coming to me, and I think I just need to figure out how to manage my time in a way that I can do all the like comics that I want to do. You know, I mean, the goal is to get out of a day job and just do comics. That's where I'd like to be in 5 years.
And when was the first time you tabled at a convention?
I think 2022 in Savannah, and then 2023 I think is when I was like, let's get serious about this.
And so what advice would you now give your previous self about like tabling at a convention?
Talk to people, I guess.
It's so basic, but it's so true.
Yeah, it is honestly, like, I do feel like there's a certain amount of creatives that are just complete introverts, and they have their head down and they're drawing at their table the whole time.
Yeah.
If they like looked up and said hi, they would probably sell some comic books.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Like standing up and talking to people is a great way to get more sales.
Yeah.
But
it swings so hard too, because there's like, I mean, we were talking about this when we were talking with Eli of Cosmic Lion Productions, but he was like, yeah, the hard sell, like just selling something to somebody is like people holding up their book and be like, hey, buy my book. Hey, check out my book. That's really obnoxious. But like being just generally personable, or knowing, I mean, everyone knows what you're doing. You're trying to sell your book. You're not like, they understand the divide of the table that's in front of you. But like, this is a place of commerce at a certain extent. And then having, I don't know, being personable and being nice and having a nice setup like you do is like helps a lot.
Well, my setup has gotten a lot better. It was, you don't want it to be flat. People aren't going to see anything. And so I had something to like a book organizer, and then I got risers for prints, and then you should get like a little shelf for stickers or whatever. But yeah, it's good to be vertical and not like obnoxiously big, because then your table mates are going to hate you. But I think talking to like customers, I guess, because it is a lot of customer service when you're tabling at a convention, but also just talking to other creators is really helpful. I don't know, because that's how I made this book with Madi.
Yeah.
Probably because he said something, but but like conventions like HeroesCon is like, it's so easy to just like, here's my book, I really like your art, can I give this to you? Will you look at it? You know, it's just, and that's super helpful. And I think doing stuff like that and doing conventions is I don't know, for me, it's a better way of getting a following than like social media and stuff.
Yeah.
And do you do commissions as well?
Yeah.
I did like your green goblin on your Instagram.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I'd like love doing commissions at shows, but I'm always like terrified. I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna forget how to draw. Yeah, I don't know. Do you ever experience that, Jamie, or are you like, I got this?
Not anymore. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that was definitely a thought, but I don't know. I've been trying to keep all of my stuff in a way that's like I now have this portable easel that I draw on every
Mhm.
day, and I am able to take that portable easel to conventions with me. So it's like at least it's the exact same drawing space that I'm used to when I'm at home as to when I'm uh, out and about, or if I have to work at my parents' house, I have the same easel I'm drawing on every day. Uh,
Mhm.
that little bit of mind trickery really helped me out.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I do my one bit of knowledge that I try to pass on to consumers is trying to find out if you're going to get a commission from an artist,
Mhm.
try to find out who they like to draw.
Mm.
Because like I went to Bill Sienkiewicz and I was like, "Hey, can you draw?" I love Nova, and I was like, "Hey, can you draw Nova for me?" And he was
Mhm.
like, "Who?" And I was like, "Shit." I was like, "Well, that's not gonna work out good." But then I went to like, I know that Eric Larson likes Nova, and
Mhm.
I asked him, I was like, "Hey, Eric, can you draw Nova?" And he was like, "F yeah, I'll draw Nova for you." And if you can have the person you're getting commission from have a smile on their face when they're doing your commission, it's
Mhm.
probably gonna be a better commission. So my question to you is, who do you like to draw?
Well, I got a Kitty Pride commission, and that was really fun to draw. This dude had a commission sketchbook, and it was just Kitty Prides,
Oh,
and I was like, this is kind of cool. um, I like to draw ladies, lady characters. Um, any of the X-Men. I don't know. I mean, I did a Transformers commission that was really fun. It was like a kind of had to stretch my.
oh, that's cool. I would really like to see that because
Mhm.
none of the stuff that's on your Instagram kind of like fits into that unless you're like at the creep sneak kill, like the page where he's at the radio store,
Mhm.
have all the radios and the TV. You did all that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was good technical stuff right there.
Oh, thank you. I used a ruler. Yeah. Um, Mari was like, I want backgrounds and stuff. So I was like, I'll work on the perspective.
You also started using a dip pen for that,
Mhm.
right? Like that was something that you had not done previously. It was all tech
Yeah.
pens and felt tip markers and stuff like that. And you,
Yeah, it was all like tech pins, and I love it. The
yeah.
G pen. Yeah.
Have you continued using that on your next projects, or are you just?
Yeah. Where I'm not at home right now, I don't have like good paper for it, and I was trying to use it in my sketchbook, and I was just kind of fucking up everything.
Yeah.
um, so right now, it's tech pins in my sketchbook. But a big critique that I would always get was like line weight, and
Yeah.
a G pen is a great way to get line weight.
Yeah.
So,
That's crazy that you're. I mean, I hate G pens.
mhm.
Like I can't make it work at
Really?
all. Yeah, it doesn't work at all for me. But I can use it. That's why I started using a brush, is because I hated the hated the way a G pen worked. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really nice to see the line weights coming in and pushing stuff forward and backwards.
Yeah.
Also that you've continued to do it, because it is like a weird tool that if you're not used to drawing with it, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
It really gets in the way.
No, I started using it. I was kind of dubious at first because I love my monoline, and then I was like, oh, this is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Like, this does look better. Yeah. But yeah, I feel good using that, and I feel like that was a big part of the improvement. Honestly, just the line weight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you tried to get me to use one before.
I did.
Yeah.
Anya doesn't listen to me, It's like that situation where you have like your dad tells you to do something and then you don't do it, but then your uncle says to do it and then you do. That's that's what happened.
I got my figure drawing method from Jamie though. I did listen.
That's right.
Yeah. I was doing the 8 heads stacked on top of each other. And then Jamie was like, no.
I said, no. Have you heard of a man called Bart Sears? He uses bubbles for everything. That's not the technique I use. We'll talk about that another time, maybe. Is it time, Matt?
Yeah.
Is it time? Is it time? Anya, I don't know if you've listened to any of these podcasts in the past, but we like to end each podcast with the exact same questions for everybody. So get ready for rapid fire questions.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Question number 1, what are you bringing and premiering to IC3 or /premiering?
Well, newest book is Creep Sneak Kill with Marty Keene. So probably that.
That'll be there. Dope. What is a strange art tool that you end up grabbing all the time?
I've started using little lead, like colored lead instead of graphite because I push too hard when I'm drawing, so I can just get rid of that in Photoshop.
Yeah. Is it like a 0.5?
Yeah, in a little mechanical pencil.
Yeah. Those are that will keep you from pushing down hard because those break.
They break
constantly.
So often.
Are you we kind of touched in on this. Are you a schedule or a feeling creator?
Both, maybe.
Yeah. What is your proudest moment as a comic book creator?
Oh my God. I don't know. There's been some really awesome moments. I'm really proud of this project with Madi. And I don't know, I think probably seeing people react in live time at conventions to my work, I think that's really encouraging and just an amazing experience.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your biggest influence?
Oh my God.
You don't have to say me.
Yeah. I'm going to say Barry Windsor Smith and then Jamie Jones.
Wow. To be in a Barry Windsor Smith conversation, I have to. Sorry, Mark Silvestri. You've been dethroned. Who is your favorite Disney princess?
Mulan.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, what stories interest you? Yours are otherwise. We understand death is a concept.
Oh, I'm drawn to stories of strong human connection, characters that like do anything for each other, you know, like the X-Men. Yep.
Matt, that has to go. That's the top. That's the top of the.
Oh, that's
the top. Yeah, just flip it, put it at the beginning.
Anya, thank you so much for your time. This was really cool.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was really fun.